What's good? It's Woog. I want to talk a little bit about how drastically different Jay-Z's career was before and after A Hard Knock Life, Volume 2. And this album dropped in 1998. And I feel like there's a little bit of context that needs to be added to the time and what was going on in hip hop when Jay-Z released that album. Like, this was after the death of Tupac in 96 and then the death of Biggie in 97. And this became a very weird time, just a dark, kind of somber, what direction is rap going in time in rap music? Because you had two of the biggest stars in the game and two of the most beloved figures suddenly just die due to gun violence. And in the wake of that, you kind of had a new crop of rappers that were coming up. Yes, you did have Nas, who already dropped Illmatic in 94. And then you had, groups like Mobb Deep and the Wu-Tang Clan that were super popular. You obviously had the Death Row emergence, but around the time of the death of Tupac in 96, Death Row was already on the descent, so their days were numbered. It wasn't the same 1993 or 92, starting with The Chronic, in 94, 95, Murder Was the Case, Doggy Style in 93, Keep Their Heads Ringing in 95. It wasn't that same heyday. Dog Food by the Dog Pound in 96, Lady of Rage, everything that was going on, that was already on the descent by the end of 1996 going into 97. I remember when Snoop Dogg dropped The Dogfather, his follow-up to Doggy Style. It already felt like things just weren't the same with Death Row. So at the same time, you also had a drastic evolution and difference in the sound of the beats that were being produced. So look no further than the difference in beats between Nas's debut Illmatic and then his follow-up 1996's It Was Written. You had a lot more gloss and a lot more polish on the beats, whereas everything was a lot more rugged in 93, 94, 95. Like, one of my favorite producers from that era is the Boot Camp Clicks DJ Evil D. These are very gritty sounding beats, whereas by the time 96, 97 comes around, you've got the shiny suit era starting to emerge, and it was kind of spearheaded by Puff Daddy. I remember a lot of people my age, I was like in junior high going into high school, a lot of people were hating on Puff Daddy because we called it the Jiggy era, where the beats started to sound a lot more dancey, a lot more, a lot more happy sounding. A lot of people just like that kind of black and white music video, and the flames are coming out of the trash can barrel, and a whole bunch of people huddled up in, Bubble Goose jackets and warming up their mittens, and kind of, you could almost picture somebody seeing their own breath and the chill of their breath because everything around them is kind of cold and dark. Think Mobb Deep videos. We went from that to, the Track Masters. They were Tone and Poke, two of the more prominent producers of that Jiggy era. Jermaine Dupri, who produced Money Ain't a Thing from Hard Knock Life, also of that era. And then in 98, you also had the emergence of DMX. And with DMX came Swiss Beats. So that was a whole other phenomenon that was taking place in rap in the late 90s versus in the early and mid 90s. I mean, again, with Nas, you had everything. Think of the halftime beat and think of Large Professor's contributions to Nas's Illmatic. So think about those beats and the grittiness of those types of samples and beat loops compared to, If I Ruled the World by Nas in 96. And then, Hate Me Now with Puff Daddy. You could hate me now on Nas's third album, I Am. Or compare the beats on Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die to Life After Death, the 1997 double album. I can't overstate how drastic in such a short period of time the beat styles were from 1994 and maybe 95 to 96 and 97. Again, this is pre-Fabulous as well, when Jay-Z was emerging. So Jay-Z dropped his Reasonable Doubt debut in 96, then he dropped Volume 1 in 97. So he had established himself as a good rapper, like skill-wise, technically. People knew Jay-Z was good, but they also kind of associated him with this emerging Jiggy era, which was everything that we that we didn't like that was taking place, the transitioning. I mean, transition is hard, right? When you're into something and you like something and you see the culture start moving off of that, it's met with a lot of resistance. So Jay-Z kind of got hated on, especially throughout his first few albums. A lot of people didn't like him until like The Blueprint, or at least, Volume 3, Life and Times of Sean Carter. I know that's the one that won me over. Again, I knew that he was good, but quite frankly, at the time, I liked Nas's homeboy, AZ, more than Jay-Z. AZ had the Do or Die album in 95, and he's got the only, vocal feature, or at least verse feature on Nas's Illmatic, and the song was Life's a B, track 3. So AZ, I loved his flow, smooth rapper. I love that Do or Die album. I actually really like all 4 of AZ's first 4 albums. Super good, super lyrical, technical, just a smooth flow. But yeah, I preferred him to Jay-Z, even through Jay-Z's second album, In My Lifetime, which I will say has grown on me tremendously over the years. I love the song Lucky Me. Obviously, the DJ Premier produced intro to that album, A Million and One Questions. That's that A Million, and it just sounds like a vintage DJ Premier sounding beat. But if you listen to like Jay-Z's track 3 from In My Lifetime Volume 1, track 3 is I Know What Girls Like, featuring Puff Daddy and Lil Kim. Listen to that style of beat. This is basically Puffy's new version of his Hitmen collective, with like Stevie J and Amin Ra and Nashim Myrick. Those were basically Puffy's 96, 97, 98 producers, versus like in 94, 93, he was working more with like the late Chucky Thompson. I actually did a video when Chucky Thompson passed, just kind of giving a lot of the history of Puff Daddy's, his groups of hitmen producers. But if you listen to that I Know What Girls Like, I Know What Girls Like, by Jay-Z, you'll get what I mean by kind of the glitz in the production styles of 1997. I mean, when the LOX debuted with Money, Power, Respect, look at the cover with the, with the shiny jackets and stuff. Very different from hip hop in 1993, 94, and even 95. And again, in the wake of Biggie and Tupac's passing, Jay-Z was one of a few rappers that were looking like they might emerge in the wake of that. I mean, Mike Geronimo was a good rapper. You had a lot of good rappers who looked like they were showing promise heading into the late 90s. But it wasn't until Jay-Z dropped his third album, Hard Knock Life Volume 2, where he basically planted his flag in the dirt and said, yo, I am at least a contender for King of New York, they were calling it at the time, between Jay-Z, Nas. Like, who's gonna basically carry the torch? Because, people weren't necessarily in love with Nas's It Was Written 1996 follow-up to 1994's Illmatic. Again, because of the beat styles, it just was so different from Illmatic that it took people a lot of time to get used to this new production style and basically the new Nas. So he lost some of what he had gained on Illmatic with his follow-up. So basically the floor was open for whoever wanted to take over at the time. And that's what Jay-Z was alluding to when he was dissing Nas with, the takeover and so forth, when they were in, kind of going on their back and forth. And again, DMX emerged in 98, and then Big Punisher was big in that year. He dropped Capital Punishment, phenomenal album. And then you had the LOX coming around that same time. You had Cannabis, who was at the peak of his, rookie year powers. He was like probably the most anticipated rapper of that time, and that includes DMX, and that includes the LOX. Cannabis might have been the hottest new face in the game. I'm dropping a video on his Beast from the East verse from that Lost Boys Love, Peace, and Happiness album. But when Jay-Z dropped Volume 2 Hard Knock Life, that's when he pulled away from the competition. He didn't do that with Reasonable Doubt and In My Lifetime. Again, these were very good albums. And by the way, I also like You Must Love Me and Where I'm From that In My Lifetime album. But he certainly did that with his third album, and it's largely because of the commercial success. He had the Hard Knock Life song, with the Annie sample. And by the way, that was produced by 45 King, the 45 King, who was like a mid to late 80s DJ and producer. So think about it. You don't hear the name the 45 King a lot, but I'll tell you 2 songs, huge songs that he produced. Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z in 1998 and then Eminem's Stan from the Marshall Mathers LP in 2000. Think about that. No, the 45 King doesn't have a ton of hits, but he's got those two very iconic songs. But yeah, Hard Knock Life kind of put Jay-Z over the top. And even before that Hard Knock Life released as a single and the music video and everything, Jay-Z had a song from the Rush Hour soundtrack featuring Amil and Ja Rule. This was kind of the intro, or at least one of the intros of the emerging rapper Ja Rule. This is before Ja Rule went on his outstanding run for a few years, before the whole 50 Cent beef and the legal takedown of Murder Inc. Jay-Z had a great breakthrough with Can I Get a You? That was a very popular song, and the beat was super sick. It was produced by Irv Gotti and Lil Rob, and this was basically the first kind of teaser and taste of this new Hard Knock Life album for Jay-Z. And the single did really well. He followed it up with Hard Knock Life, the song, and the rest is history. He also had Igga What? Igga Who? Which was a great song, and that basically showcased Jay-Z's lyrical and speed dexterity. He started going super fast with his homeboy and his mentor, Jaz-O, on that song. Very popular song. It also had the song Money Cash Hoes with DMX, another popular song with a Swiss Beats beat with an interesting piano loop. It went like very unorthodox beat. And there's also, speaking of unorthodox, Timbaland production on A Hard Knock Life. There was no Timbaland production on the two albums prior for Jay-Z, but again, this is also emblematic of the production style changes around the time of 98. Timbaland produced Igga What? Igga Who? And he produced Paper Chase. Swiss Beats produced Coming of Age when Jay-Z was still launching the career of Memphis Bleek. He was really trying to showcase Bleek heavy on this Hard Knock Life album. And something that's also notable about Jay-Z albums, he'll have like the album and the songs that are supposed to go on it, but he'll also have a couple bonus tracks because Jay-Z was killing it on like features on soundtracks and stuff. So on the In My Lifetime album from 97, Jay-Z's second album, he had the Streets Is Watching soundtrack, a Jay-Z and Def Jam soundtrack from around that same time. But he also had the song Who You With? I Suggest You Wanna Roll With The Click. Who You With? It was from a movie called Sprung with like Tisha Campbell. Sprung had a soundtrack. Who You With was a song that we kept on seeing the music video of and hearing on the radio. Very popular Jay-Z single at the time, and they ended up including it on that In My Lifetime album. Jay-Z on the Hard Knock Life album had It's Alright. You heard? It's Alright. You can smoke if you want to smoke. If you want to. That featured Memphis Bleek as well. And Jay-Z had Money Ain't a Thing, which might have been the biggest song from that Hard Knock Life album. And again, it was tacked onto the back because it was also featured on Jermaine Dupri's 1472 album. That was a popular Jermaine Dupri, JD, not J Dilla, but So Def's Jermaine Dupri, who we hopefully see in a versus-like battle versus Puff Daddy. I actually think that that's more competitive than some might believe going in. Jermaine Dupri, Songwriting Hall of Fame. Like, this guy is the real deal if you look at his discography as a producer, songwriter, and so forth. But yeah, Money Ain't a Thing. Again, this is very emblematic of the Jiggy era. This is probably one of the jiggiest of the Jiggy songs. Money Ain't a Thing. Super glitzy production, kind of danceable beat, a very bouncy beat. And yeah, both Jay-Z and Jermaine Dupri, they just killed it on that song. This is one of the biggest singles of the year in 1998. Money Ain't a Thing. But Jay-Z also took a moment to kind of take it back with more of a traditional hip hop sounding beat on the Kid Capri featured It's Like That. That's the one with the dun 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 dun. Like it's a very kind of nostalgic sounding beat, and I remember liking that one a lot. Like Julio G on 92.3 The Beat out here in LA would play that song on like the 9 o'clock bomb a lot, and I remember liking that beat and obviously liking the iconic Kid Capri's feature on that song. By the way, you also get one of the first listens to Beanie Sigel on the song Reservoir Dogs. That also has Sauce Money, a Jay-Z associate at that time. It also has the Locks. But yeah, Beanie Sigel features on Reservoir Dogs, also from Hard Knock Life. So this album killed it. Whereas Jay-Z had decent to good sales up until the time of Hard Knock Life, Hard Knock Life like went several times platinum. He just had one hit after another, and then he kind of became a hit making machine. But the thing is, as good as his hits were, it was always the album cuts that I loved from Jay-Z. So like the next album after Hard Knock Life was The Life and Times of Sean Carter, Volume 3. I love that Jay-Z album. That's actually the one, again, that won me over. And then Jay-Z dropped The Dynasty and then The Blueprint. And then you're talking about legendary status by that point, where he's almost kind of lapping the crowd in terms of how big of a star he's becoming. And then he had the 2003 retirement after the Black album. But this was a run where Jay-Z was dropping an album every year. Again, Reasonable Doubt 96, In My Lifetime 97, Hard Knock Life 98, Life and Times of Sean Carter Volume 3 99, The Dynasty 2000, Blueprint 2001, Blueprint 2 2002, all the way up to 2003's The Black Album, and then Jay-Z retired. And he's released a few albums since, but not with the same regularity that he was when he was on this iconic stretch. And Hard Knock Life did a lot to also launch, you know, the Rockefeller label, because this started to further introduce Memphis Bleek, Beanie Siegel, a Mill at the time, and so forth. So yeah, they were just clicking on all cylinders. This was exactly the success they needed with this Hard Knock Life album. They got it. And then again, Jay-Z would drop, you know, Big Pimpin' on his next album, Life and Times of Sean Carter. But there is clearly a distinction between Jay-Z's career before Hard Knock Life, where he was just trying to get into the mix. He was really trying to assert himself and be among the elite of the era, to where after Hard Knock Life, he was of the elite. And then, you know, they had the Hard Knock Life and Rough Rider tour, where it was basically like a co-headlining tour where both Jay-Z and DMX at the time were like the heads of the class. You know what I mean? They were both killing it. But yeah, let me know what you think about Jay-Z's career, like his kind of career trajectory. Do you see it the same way, where Hard Knock Life kind of changed the trajectory of Jay-Z's career, where it felt like every album after that was more or less a victory lap? Yes, they were excellent albums. Like, I think Blueprint is an all-time hip-hop classic. And again, I really like Life and Times of Sean Carter Volume 3. Hell, I really like the Dynasty album. That was a very good album with some great singles and, again, some great album cuts. And by this time, Jay-Z has stopped working, was no longer working with Ski. Ski produced a lot of Reasonable Doubt. Ski Beats, or Ski, has produced a lot of Currency projects. Like, I think the Pilot Talk series was Ski. And Ski also produced one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time, Camp Lo's Uptown Saturday Night. Ski is one of the more underrated producers in hip hop history. He produced, again, a few tracks from Reasonable Doubt, and he produced a few tracks on In My Lifetime Volume 1, but he didn't produce anything from A Hard Knock Life. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Jay-Z and on Hard Knock Life. You know, I didn't love the album when it dropped, but I recognized its importance and what it meant to Jay-Z's career. Basically like, damn, okay, that's it. He basically just took over. So anybody that was hating on Jay-Z up until that point, yeah, they had to eat their words after Hard Knock Life. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love hip hop like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.